So a few weeks ago, I talked about how I am using Notion for my life, my personal life, my genealogy life, and one of the reasons I kind of got started using Notion was because my friend Taneya was also using it. I felt like really, really, really good about it. So I thought I'd bring her on and see how she is using Notion because she is using it a little bit differently than I am. So I thought I'd give you another perspective. For those of you who don't know me, I am Julie Cahill Tar with Genealogy in Action, and I provide tips and tricks to make your genealogy life easier and more productive so you can find your elusive ancestors quickly and confidently. So if you're a dedicated genealogist looking to uplevel your skills, you are in the right place. Now, Taneya, welcome.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I mean, this will be really good to get another perspective on Notion. So, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and letting us know a little bit about what you do and who you are.
All right, happy to. So my name is Taneya Koonce, and I have a initiative that I run called the Academy of Legacy Leaders. We have a very dynamic Facebook group, and through my work with the Academy, as well as a special focus I do to help people organize, what I tend to help with is helping family history enthusiasts implement strategic and systematic approaches to save, organize, and preserve their family history. Because the goal then is to help them focus on sharing their family memories and legacies over generations. So that's what I specialize in. And I do this leveraging my career in information science and knowledge management and bringing that to family history to help us all out.
Well, that's great. We need that.
Yes.
Our community definitely needs that for sure. Okay, so we're going to talk about how Tania is using Notion. But first, let me really quickly, in case you haven't already watched my videos, which you can if you go to the playlist. I got into Notion because I was looking to change out my content management system. I was using Trello for a long time and it was working for me, but it wasn't working for me. And eventually I decided I needed a different system. And I was exploring some different things and I came across Notion and it completely changed the way I thought about knowledge management in general. So not just my content management, but it became my home for my educational materials or my knowledge hub, which is a combination of a variety of different things. And then I realized, oh my gosh, it can be my genealogy research hub because I've been looking for something to fulfill that need that I had to kind of get everything in one place. So this was kind of a huge thing for me. But what really concerned me at the time was, is this going to be a long-term solution? What happens if Notion goes away? So when I found out that Tania was using it, it made me feel a heck of a lot better. So I I want to just we'll touch on a few of those reasons in just a moment, but first I just wanted to ask you, I just kind of shared kind of why I started to use Notion, but
Mhm.
what prompted you to start using Notion?
All right. Well, I will say my initial foray into it was prompted by my daughter's use of it. She's a teenager and she uses Notion. And I'd asked her one day about it, but let me tell you kind of why I asked her about it. So, like you, right, I have used a number of tools in the past to help me organize and make sure I had structure around all the things I needed to capture and remember and do. And, I started way back with Evernote. Probably, I think that was the first real attempt that I made to get organized. And I used that for a while, but you know what? I found myself outgrowing it. So, like you, I realized I needed more. So then I switched to a different platform. I switched to OneNote, and that was happy with that for a while because it addressed some of the needs that I wasn't getting from Evernote. But guess what? I needed more. so, so because I thought, is there nothing out there that's going to help me? Like, what am I going to do? So for a while, I didn't use anything. But when my daughter was using Notion. She was using it because, she's on TikTok, and actually Notion had an explosive growth during the pandemic because of TikTok and students on TikTok talking about Notion and showing how they're using Notion. So I asked her one day, I said, what is it about Notion that appeals to you? So she gave me her own little Notion tour of how she uses it. And I said, okay, I'm going to explore it. Now, I quickly discovered all that it could do. So I came to Notion because I was looking for something that could give me more flexibility, help me do more with organizing my content, and I have not been disappointed.
Amen. I mean, me too. That's, I think, the biggest draw is that flexibility, right? Because it's really, when you think about it, it's really all of these tools that we've used, and whether we've morphed into one to the other, or we're using 5 different tools for 5 different reasons.
Yeah.
Notion is like this conglomeration of all of these tools in one, and the flexibility is just amazing. So I'm right there with you.
Yes. Yes. So like I said, I have really enjoyed it so much, and we geeked out about it together.
Yes, we have.
That was
we do quite a bit.
Yes.
And we're doing it again.
And we're doing it again. So as I said, right, I've not been disappointed. We geek out about it. It's just been a really really good experience. And part of the appeal for me with Notion is, as we discussed, is flexibility and its ability to manipulate data, to look at data with different views, to sort and filter across a data set in very dynamic ways that you just can't do with other applications, right? Spreadsheets have limitations. You can't always segment the information like you want to. And that was one of the things I had a need for. So Notion having the features in place that allow us to do that made it almost an immediate draw. Because think about it, when it comes to family history information, we collect a lot of it. And even just, doing our various projects, and I'll show in some use case examples how I implement this, but we deal with so much information, and it gives us a way to really get good views and insights into it. And not to mention the cost, right? Because
free.
It's such an incredible value.
Yeah.
So between the free plan, which gives you a lot of, good features, but the paid plans are not expensive either. So I really find that it gives us so much value for what we're able to, either get it for free or low cost pay for it. And, once you use it, the world is yours.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned the cost, right? Because for a while I was just using the free version because it suited my needs just fine. I didn't really, the only limitation that you have, I believe, is the upload file limitation, the size limitation.
Yes.
And then if you have a team of people,
right.
I don't have a team of people that I need to collaborate with. So it was just me. So those two things didn't really matter to me all that much. Sometimes the file size might be a little bit of a problem, but it was not a huge deal. But after I started using it, and I started using it I'm in it every day, all day. Like it is my home base for everything. And I felt like I really should subscribe because I feel like I need to pay them something for this experience. And I went ahead and did the paid plan, and it turned out I had 5 months free. So I've only paid them $22.
So you definitely got your deal.
for an annual subscription. So that's like 7 months I got for $22.
Yes.
Or 12 months I got for $22. 5 of them were free. And I'm thinking, I still feel like I need to pay them more.
But that just speaks to how much value it gives you.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly felt guilty, like using it for free, to be honest, because that is how much value it adds to my life. I never thought anything would ever do something like that for me. And I feel like I need to pay them more. They should have like a donation thing too. Buy
or you
me a
can
cup
just
of coffee.
give money, buy me a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously, like it is an amazing tool. I'm glad that I found it. I'm glad that you found it, and made me feel better about finding it because, we had talked about this before, and my question to you several months ago was, okay, you're using it. That tells me that you believe in this, because I know in terms of like photo preservation tools, you were looking everywhere for something that met all of your criteria. And so I know how
Exactly.
much due diligence you give to finding a solution to your problem, whatever that problem may be. And so the fact that you were using Notion was like a green light for me. I'm like, okay, cool. She's using it. Must
Yes.
be there must be something about it that I'm not seeing necessarily, that she's researched and knows it's good, right? So
Yes.
what are your thoughts on the sustainability in terms of Notion? And then also, do you have any concerns about like the longevity that kind of go
Hmm.
along with that? So if you would maybe
Yeah.
speak to both of those
Yeah.
things.
So, as you mentioned, I really give great attention to the longevity of my material. If I'm going to take the time and invest the time to put my data and content into a platform, I want to know that it's going to handle that content well, and it's going to be around for a while, and it's going to be done in a way that I'm not going to be at risk of losing anything. So you mentioned photo management. That's exactly why I use Forever as my photo management tools, because of the focus on, well, not only did it meet all my criteria, but it's focused on permanency. That's a built-in infrastructure model of the company's strategy, right? So that permanency was important. Now with Notion, it's not guaranteed to be permanent. However, I do feel it's a good option, and it's not one that I feel my content's at risk. When it comes to sustainability, I'm very optimistic about them as a company. They've
Hmm.
got more than 30 million users around the world, 4 million users every month. And the United States is not even their top market share country. Like it's used more in
Oh,
other
really?
countries than it is in the
Wow.
United States. There's a
We need to
very
change that.
I know. Hey, we can get all the genealogists on board.
Yeah.
So there's a very large user community that all care
Yeah.
and participate and create in order to build on top of what Notion offers. So,
And
and
the developers
yes,
listen. They
yes,
listen to
they
the
do.
that's the biggest thing.
They
I
do.
think for any software type or application or tool or whatever, when the developers actually listen to their customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, users. There we go. That's a good
Yes,
word. That's a big deal to me, and I've seen that over and over again in the enhancements that they've made just in the last 6 months. Well, I guess 7, 8 months now that I've been using it, but
yes.
just in the last 6 months, they've made a lot of changes that people have been asking for and building cases for, and
Hmm.
they're they're listening and they're implementing, and I
They
really
are.
do appreciate that.
Yes, and that just goes to show it's a testament to their commitment to us
Yep.
as users. So I'm very optimistic about their sustainability. In fact, they actually came back from the brink of disaster once, so I know that they could do it again. Now, when it comes to our data in there, and one of the criteria that I have is to make sure anytime I put information in, I can get it back out. I abhor any system that's going to lock in my data in a very proprietary way. And so what's good about Notion is that when you put your information into it, there are some limitations on getting it out. However, you can export all your content at any time. And the format that it exports in is one that can be easily reused by so many other applications that exist out there. So I personally felt, okay, if something were to happen, I know I can get my data out. In fact, I export my content on a regular basis as part of my scheduled activities. So the site could go down tonight and I would feel comfortable because I regularly export my content. And I know that I could reintegrate it into something else. Maybe it'll be not quite the same user experience because it'll be a different product, but the data I'll have. And so I feel confident that, okay, I'm using something that's going to give me my data back and I'm not locked in. That's so important to me. I do not want to be locked in. So with
Yep.
Notion, we don't run that risk.
And that's great.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that sold me when we talked about it months
Yeah.
ago, and it was like, okay, cool, like that's good to
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
I immediately was like, okay, I need to start exporting my data on a
Mm.
schedule just to be on the safe side.
Mhm.
Although I don't really foresee anything going haywire, but you never
You
know.
never
Stuff
know.
happens. So,
Exactly. And furthermore, they recently built additional tools to help third-party people connect into them. So that's going to open it up even more for other providers to help us, be able to extract our data out and we use it. So it's exciting to me.
Yeah, totally geeking out again. All right, so now I want to ask you, what exactly are you using Notion for?
Oh my
I did
goodness.
my tour, you saw my tour, you've seen it prior to my video
Yes,
coming
yes.
out, and I've seen little bits and pieces of yours, but I want you to share everything with me
Oh goodness.
and everybody watching.
I'd be happy to. And so I'm going to take you through a tour of what I call my command center. This is my command center page. It's where I log into all day, every day, in order to carry out my Notion business. I call it my command center because my nickname in my family is the director of operations. So I set up my command center. So I won't take you through all of it, but I do want to highlight some of the ways I use it. And a primary way in which I use Notion is this second brain. Now, we've talked about Notion and all the flexibility it offers. There is this principle called the second brain that was developed by Tiago Forte, who also is one who shares content about Notion and other apps to help you with productivity. But he developed this concept of a second brain, which is really your personal system for managing all the information you take in. So I have a second brain that I have set up. So when it comes to how I use Notion, I primarily use it across 4 categories. So I have this graphic in here to highlight the areas of my life. And almost actually everything I do since I started using Notion, I've been able to map in one of these 4 areas. My first area is my personal life. These are home and household, family and friends, pet care, things that have to do with my personal life. I also have a category that I call family projects. These are initiatives that we are working on as a family that we carry out with specific intent. So for me, that would be the Academy of Legacy Leaders. I have a specific goal and intent around how I manage the community and all the things that I'm doing to promote genealogy and to help others. So that's my family project. My husband is a photographer. So he has a brand, Community Shutterbug, and he's very intentional about how he's growing that as his business. My daughter has a crochet business. So these family projects go here. Then I have genealogy. I volunteer a lot in the genealogy community. And for years, I've been seeking ways to organize all the things I needed to do around those different projects, societies that I'm members of. And so I have a whole collection of things that go into genealogy and then work, right? I do use Notion to help me at work as well. So these are my 4 areas of my second brain. And within each of these 4 areas, I have sub areas. So I'll show my personal, for example. So family, friends, and pets, finances, I do track that in here as well. Health and wellness, home and household, so just things around the house, things we buy for the house. My learning hub is where I put those things that I consume, articles, videos that I want to capture and make sure I retain, and even relationships, because I do manage like my relationships as I connect with other people. So those are examples of my categories in personal. In genealogy, I have societies in here, my surname studies, US GenWeb project, the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. So all the things that go into each of these areas. So everything I do gets mapped to one of these 4 areas. Now, how do I enter data? Let me go back to my command center. For years, I have been tracking events that happen in our life. So whether it be how did I spend my 40th birthday, or what movie did we go see? I track things. I created these timelines, right? We as genealogists, we're familiar with timelines. So I keep track of things. So every time I have something I want to document, it goes into my database that I call resources and notes. Everything that goes here is either a resource, so an article or a story or a video, or it's a note that I did something. So I just combine the 2 and call it resources and notes. Here, for example, I'm showing you all the notes I've entered around presentations I've done. And so that could be webinars I've done, workshops I've done, Zoom sessions I've done, but I'll enter it into the database so that I can document it, capture it, archive it. And if I did something in it that I might want to reuse, I have an easy way to get back to it. When I enter an item in here, I capture a variety of attributes about it. So the date I did it, who I did it for, what major area of my graphic does it fall into, and many, many different items that I'm not going to go into detail, but I document them here. And the great thing about Notion is I can filter and sort. So I have a filter on right now to show you my presentations. I could change this and say, well, let me show you different things that have gone on in my home and household, right? And then you get a list of things that have happened in my house. Our refrigerator needed to be repaired last week. So that put in here because I live in an apartment complex. I wanted to track all our maintenance requests. The car overheated. We had to go get it fixed back in April. So these are things that I just like to document because sometimes I'll have questions about it. So this is my resources and notes. And this column is where I map it to one of those 4 areas. So that's how I use Notion really day to day, is I'm documenting things that happen and assigning it to one of my major categories or one of the areas beneath one of those 4 categories. I use it for other things. Like, my mother does puzzles. So I created a puzzle tracker for her. So she has access to this link and she can check out the puzzles that she's done. I also
Kind of
actually,
like a book list where you don't
yeah,
buy the same puzzle again. Like,
yes.
yeah,
And she
because
wanted to
I
keep,
tend to do that.
yeah, she wanted to keep track of what puzzle she did, how long it took
Yep.
her,
Wow.
what the size and dimensions were, what company it was. So she's having fun getting those insights that she can glean because of the manipulability, is that a word? Manipulability
Why
of the
not?
data we capture. So, and I also use Notion to help me I do this principle called contact mapping, where I try to make a purposeful and intentful connection with a few people every day. So I put people in rotation in my contacts. So my friends and my social media friends, I try to go in a cycle. So I have a little demo of my little CRM, my customer relationship management. But I'll put in, look, my daughter calls it stalking, but I'm a genealogist. Right? We track people who are dead. I do track my people who are living too. So I may have a record for a friend and just write details about them so I can keep up with the major things that are happening in their life. So let's say test friend 1, maybe there's someone who I went to high school with and I want to document their hobbies and who they're married to, and I document what field they're in. And I keep track of like when I last kind of really connected with them, and I set them on a schedule to make sure I reach out to them again. So I can keep track of that. And then I have a calendar that I use where I kind of see every day how many people I'm supposed to reach out to. So those are some of the non-genealogy ways I use Notion.
That's interesting, though. I've not seen that part of your
Yeah.
Notion system, and I actually kind of like that because I'll go through, I'll be cooking or something. I'm like, oh, I should check on so and so and see how they're doing, or I need to call my cousin, or I need to do this, or I need to talk to this person, or I haven't followed up with this person in like 6 months, or like that's brilliant. I think I might have to steal that one.
Hey, you're welcome to. But it's helped me remember what's going on in my friends' lives, and it's helped me make sure I do reach out to people. And like I said, even Facebook friends that maybe I've never met in person, but I want to take the time to keep up with some
nurture
people.
That relationship. Yeah. Because I mean, heck, I can't even remember what I did 3 days ago, let alone what's going on in somebody else's life. So that would actually help me keep track of kind of what's going on in their lives and when I last spoke to them, and when it's time to follow up and say, hey, how you doing? Instead of just thinking it. Because usually it comes to me at the wrong time.
Gone.
Like I'm cooking. Well, no, it's like I'm cooking dinner, and it's like, well, yeah, I can't multitask when I'm cooking. It's a disaster. Or it'll be like at 12 o'clock at night, midnight, and it's like, oh, well, that person's in bed. Well, that person's in California. They might still be up, but it is a weekday and a work day, so you know what I mean. It's
exactly.
So this would actually help me be more deliberate. Because I'm one of those people, like if it ain't on my calendar, it ain't getting done. And
same here.
This is a brilliant. I never would have thought of that. I'm probably going to be setting that up tonight.
Yes, the contact mapping is a concept I learned about from 2 gentlemen, Tom Chenault and his son Adrian Chenault. And so their whole focus is building purposeful and intentional relationships with the people in your circle.
Nice. Very cool.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
So yeah, those are some of the ways I use it, just kind of for life, right? For life purposes. Right. And then, I've got my genealogy examples. So
would you like to share some of those with us?
Yes. So I have
All
three
right.
specific things that I thought I'd share in case it's helpful to others to see what I do. So the first use case I have is an indexing project. So I have a project that I've been working on with some colleagues to news articles from historical news, index articles from historical newspapers. And it's a name index or organization index. So we've been capturing some of that data through crowdsourcing approaches, but I also have been capturing some of my own just because I want to pull that information and be able to share it, for example, on the US GenWeb Project website. So this is an example that might be helpful for genealogy societies or any group that's carrying out an indexing project and is looking to how to best or interesting ways to organize and share what they're extracting. So I'll go into my historical news index and I'll show North Carolina as an example. And let me put this out the way. So this is my table of data, names and organizations extracted from historical North Carolina newspapers. I currently have 3,700 entries, the numbers down here at the bottom, in the database. And for every article or every name here, there's a variety of information that I capture. So the county of the newspaper name, the date, if there's any organization or personal name mentioned in that article, I'm documenting it here. Other fields, such as whether or not the person mentioned is not white, if there's a photo that accompanies that's a company that's in the article to just show the person. I have a set structure here for different article types, and then location data, right? What page it's on, the column it's on, and if it's available online, a link to it. So what this does is allow great flexibility in looking at all this data set. So for example, if I need to see all the entries from any particular newspaper, like the Roanoke Beacon, I have a view set up for that, and I can have just the entries that came from that newspaper. If I want to see just the entries that are mentioning someone who's passed away, I have a view for that, and I can see all the information that are related to a death notice or an obituary. And it's all searchable. So I could type in a name like Prosper. This is a gentleman's first name in Plymouth, North Carolina, and pull up, the articles that I've indexed that mention his name. So when you think about a large data set like a newspaper index, this is such a great tool for that because you're able to store it, organize it, manipulate it, and search it. And I can create a public facing URL so others can use this same database.
Very cool.
That's one of the ways I use it for genealogy.
All right. What else you got for us?
All right, let me go back to my command center. All right, the second example I want to share is for my social media content. So like I share a lot of social media. I share a lot of genealogy information online, and I wanted to track that over time and all the different places that I share it. So I have a database that I've been building as a repository for all the content I have in my blogs, on my Facebook page, and my Facebook groups. And I have loved having this. So let me show you a little bit about how it's set up. So I have a filter on right now just to focus on the content I've shared recently. And I have different groupings for the different places that I share information. So if I were to expand on my Facebook page, for example, I have a list of the things I've shared this particular month on my Facebook page. And again, I have a variety of attributes that I collect about each item I've posted. So when I posted it, what week it happened in, what format it is, the caption that I use, and a whole bunch of other data about that content, especially categories that it covers, because I try and balance the type of information I share, right? I don't want to be all just newspapers all the time. So if I'm tracking the type of content I share, I can give that variety. So this has been so nice and so helpful for me to keep track of that. And I'll say this could be something that's worthwhile for anyone who, like a society that's wants to engage their community online through social media, or even professional genealogists who are sharing information and want to keep track of that as they educate and present to others, so they can do that in a very organized and structured way. And you have a system that you use as well, so it goes to show there's a need for stuff like this. We want to capture this and organize it. So I really use this on a weekly basis to help me planning my social media strategy and archiving and reusing what I've done before in the past. But I couldn't do that if I didn't have it organized in a structured way.
Yep.
Yep. And I even have different views, like a calendar.
Yep.
So I can see, what I'm posting, what days, when and where. So it's been very, very nice to have this set up. This is one of my more recent projects.
Can you show us your post image gallery?
Oh, yes, I did want to show that. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, I love
Because
this.
you showed that to me like a couple
Yes.
weeks ago, and I have started adding my thumbnails to my post, but I have not set up
Yes.
the view yet.
So
So
if I were
I
to,
want to see it again.
okay, if I were to open up any particular entry, I do post in here, I do add a media item so I can see the image that was shared. So because I have added that media item, I have a view where I can see all the images for the content I've shared over any specific time period. So these are all the images for things I've shared in this particular month, and I love this. So this is actually how I manage my media for my social media, all my images that I use. But maybe a year from now, I want to repost something and ask a question again, right? So I know I can come here and get it. And isn't it just pretty to look at?
I know,
So
and like I said,
look, there you are.
I started to add the media files in. So I added a property to my content stuff, and I just haven't built the view yet. That's on my
Yes,
list of things to do, which is
yes,
also in Notion.
yes, right? Notion for everything. So this has just been incredibly helpful as I share genealogy content online. I also think about people who are sharing information in like personal and family Facebook groups, right? You may want to keep track
Yeah,
of the things you've shared over time so that you can come back to it, because Facebook is not to be relied on as an archival tool, right? So
right.
you want to be saving that content outside of Facebook, and Notion gives you a great alternative.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
And my third use case, this is more exploratory, but I am, paying attention to some of the more non-traditional ways that people who are interested in family history think about sharing that with their families. Because not everyone uses the same tools that many of us might use, such as family history software that we put in our computer that's in JEDCOM format, right? All the things that genealogists do. There are a lot of people who are just casually interested and want to capture that information. So one of the templates, or one of the applications I found, is from Red Gregory, who I know you also follow.
Yep.
She has a family history dashboard that's set up kind of wiki style as a way to showcase information about your family. So she has this wiki platform that allows you to organize your family tree across generations and present information in a very interesting way. So let me show you one profile. This is my grandmother, Alice McNair was her maiden name. She married a Robinson. And this is her wiki page. So I can see her parents and I can link out to their profiles. Her spouse, so this is my grandfather, and I could link out to his profile. I can visually capture events that happened in the family. So when she was born, I'll I'll add gradually all the places she lived, the birth of her
Had to get that
children.
1950 census in there, though, didn't you?
Did. You know my story. Boy, I had a fun tracking her down. So yeah, I already have her 1950 census record in here. Her siblings, which I haven't added them, but I can and I will. Her children. And this is one of the parts of the wiki I really particularly like a lot. So I have source documents that I'm beginning to add. And I'll say here, my genealogy documents and my photos, I do keep in my central hub in forever. But I also advocate a strategy of having a central hub and reusing it as needed. So my central hub is over there, but guess what? This is one of the ways I reuse that information and those content, those pictures and those documents. So I pulled in, for example, her birth certificate. And from her birth certificate, I document all kind of things. So, what type of format is it? What is it? Certificate? Where did I get it from? What family tree lineage does it go with? Where is it at in my forever library? Do I have it physical version? If I have a physical version, where is it? I have a whole filing system. So library science is my background.
Right.
I have a filing system. So I'll know exactly where to go to get that physical item. But I can link multiple people to that same record, and then it shows up on all their profiles. And I really like that feature because I don't have to create a separate source citation for each person. It's one document with multiple people attached. Love it.
And multiple events attached if
Multiple
necessary.
events.
And yeah,
Exactly.
that's how I set up my sources database as well,
Yes.
which is the beauty of it. It's
Yes.
just
Yeah. And
Red's template is really good in terms of the wiki style,
yes.
and the ability to share, because I think that's what a lot of people will probably like about this, is the ability to share the data in a
Mhm.
different way. And you know, yes, you can do that on Ancestry Tree, but you don't run the risk of somebody, clicking the, yep, I'm going to accept that and bring it into my tree and that kind of thing. This is
Yes.
kind of a
Yeah.
different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And then in terms of what I've been doing on the genealogy side, it's really more my process, my research
Right.
process. It does use elements that Red is using here, like the citations and sources and things like that. And I'm using some of her concepts as inspiration for doing a little bit more connecting than I had originally anticipated, because I
Mhm.
had built that out before she had
Yeah.
released her video about this um, deal. And I'm like, okay, how can I incorporate some of these cool features into what I'm doing? So
Yes.
that's something I need to be working on as well,
Yeah.
hopefully someday soon,
Yeah,
because
but
I'm itching to get into it.
yes, yes. And it's different, right? It's not JetCon based. It's
Nope.
completely different. But I think it's important we pay attention to that because it gives us opportunities to connect with others even more. So I'm exploring it, and I can do some cool things with it. So
Mhm.
another screen, another part of the database is tracking citations and sources. So if I filter down to the documents I have from my grandmother Alice, I've got a news article from 1963. I've got a letter she got received in 1944, birth certificate information. So I'm creating an inventory. And even though I have my content elsewhere, it's not giving me a list. And I decided I wanted an inventory list. So I'm building that. And an inventory list I can print out, keep with my physical items so my family knows exactly what I have. Because honestly, now when your family doesn't know what you have, that puts your stuff at risk. So I want to make sure my family knows exactly what I have. And so they know what it is, why it's important. And what's
So
nice,
you'll, am I understanding this correctly? Like you'll run shelf 1A, container 1, all of that, and then print out a list of everything that is in that and put it
and put it in there.
in the box
Yes,
in
yes,
in container 1 on shelf 1A.
exactly. So
Cool.
they will know exactly what's there.
Very cool.
And I'm
I like it.
also recently getting into capturing more stories about my family. So I'm creating a little database also kind of within her template of capturing my family stories. So I can write a story and put in and tie it to the person who the story is about. And I'm gonna track my stories because one of the things I plan on doing, let me show you one. And in this corner, Kid Long Distance. This is a story about my grandfather. I'd always heard growing up that he was in the Golden Gloves as a boxer, but got kicked out because of his temper. So one day, a few months ago, I decided to go searching in newspapers and found a couple news articles mentioning him as a boxer. So I wrote up a story about what I learned through the family, attached these newspaper clippings, and so I have this clipping and I have the story I wrote, and I am going to be creating these family story books. So for every story I write, it will go in one or more books, and I can keep track of that until I'm ready to produce the books. So I am beginning the process of writing stories and tracking stories. And I've been writing for years on my blog, but I decided I wanted something more tangible to be able to give to my family, and I'm going to do it through these storybooks that I plan to create. So
Are you going to pull the stories that you've written on your blog into
will,
this? That's
yes,
great.
yes, maybe update them a little bit, but pull them into here.
Yeah.
I absolutely will. So that's my Notion tour.
Cool.
Some of the ways I use it. And like I said, there's so much flexibility that we can get from it.
And there's so many different ways that you can do it. I mean, our our my dashboard is your command center, but they serve two different purposes. One for how I work, one is for how you work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to have the same thing. I'm going to take elements from Red's Family Tree Wiki style template and bring it into my Genealogy Hub, which is more research-based than
Right.
people-based per se, but there are elements in there that I hadn't thought of that I really want to bring in, but that may not work for you, or it may not work for her, or it may not work for this person or whatever. And the point is you can take elements and do whatever you want with them. I mean, when I decided I was going to use Notion for content management, because that's what a lot of people were promoting, was like they're using it for content management. And I'm like, okay, great. I came across Thomas Frank and said, wow, I'm learning a lot from this dude. I don't know him, but hey, like I got a master class in Notion in a matter of a few hours,
Right.
and it was phenomenal. And then I finally get to the end of one. I build the ultimate task manager as he outlines in his video. I get to the end of that. Great, perfect. I start playing around with it, tweaking it, and then I watch another video on his content management system, which is the creator's uh, companion. Can't ever remember that. Um, and I get to the end of that video and he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna have a template that you can buy eventually." And now, mind you, I was watching this video like 6, 7, 8 months after he published it, and I'm like, "Okay,
Yes.
y'all, you got that somewhere?" And
Right.
I'm Googling it, and I find it, and I'm like, "Oh yes, cha-ching, I'm buying it." And the
Yes.
reason being is because, and I actually bought it with the task management, the ultimate task manager, even though I had just built it out. It took me 4 hours to build it out, but it was connected and I knew I could do it. I just didn't know if I wanted to
Yeah.
deal with it, to be honest. I was
Right.
trying to save myself time and energy. So I'm like, you know what? Just give it to me. It's all done. I put it in, I tweaked it and started using it immediately. And I haven't looked back. I have not looked back. So, I mean, but for you, that system might not be the right, it might not be the right system for you.
Right.
Whereas for me, it worked great. I mean, a couple tweaks later and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But it just depends on the person. And that's the beauty of Notion, is you can be so incredibly flexible. Whereas with, things like Evernote and Trello and Asana and Airtable and OneNote and all of there's only so much you can do. And like I said at the beginning, it's kind of like, it's this Notion's kind of like just taking all of those tools and packaging
Wrapping
it
it
into
into one.
one. And it
Yes.
makes life so much easier for me personally. I mean, and everybody who uses Notion, I mean, they are mega fans. I mean,
Yes.
there aren't a lot of programs or applications that people really get behind and like talk about constantly and geek out over. And this is one of them.
Yes.
I
You will
mean, there's,
find so many people talking about their Notion setups and
yep.
what they get from it and how they use it. It's wonderful.
Yep. And that's the thing. And I will put links to both Thomas Frank and Red Gregory. Red does a lot of talking about Notion. It's not all genealogy, but she does talk genealogy too. So you guys might be interested in that. So I want you to check those people out, because they can explain Notion and how it works better than I can, because
Yeah.
I'm still in the,
Still learning.
yeah, I mean, it does what I need it to do, and
Yes.
I keep improving upon it and making new things and deciding, oh, now I want to create this contact management-ish. I forget what you called it, but
Contact
the
mapping. Yes.
contact mapping. That's right. Yes, I now I need to go do that.
Yes.
And just like little things like that, that you just, like, something springs to mind. Like now we're doing a home improvement project, and well, we've been doing it for a while now, but now I've got a little thing set up that had where I'm tracking everything that's going on, because we're still doing
Yes.
stuff. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, I need to start tracking this stuff in one place,
Yes.
because right now it's everywhere. I've got stuff saved in Evernote, stuff like just browser tabs open on my tablet. Just
Yeah.
it's in places that it shouldn't be. Now, as of a couple days ago, it's all corralled into Notion, and I
Excellent.
love it.
Yes.
So, do you have any future plans for Notion that you are
Oh my
looking to?
goodness.
do. I know
Yes.
sometimes it just, like I just said, it kind of like comes on the fly. Like you think of something and you're like, ooh, a new
Yeah,
Notion
gotta do
database or a
it.
new
Gotta
Notion
do
page
it.
or whatever, right? But is there anything
Yeah.
that you have already in mind that you want to start working on eventually?
Well, I want to do more with my stories, really capturing those stories and building that out in a way in Notion that's going to help me transfer that into a written product. So that's one of the goals that I have in mind. I also, Julie, I need your assistance, right? As far as organizing my genealogy research process. That's not something I currently do. Like I'll focus on organizing the end result, but not the process. And I definitely am looking forward to when you release yours because I'm going to grab that up and I'm going to, make sure I do a much better job in planning my research appropriately and documenting things along the way. So those are two examples. More will come,
Yep.
but
Every
as
day
a
it seems like we come up with something else. And then you see what
oh
other people are doing too. That's the
yes,
thing. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. I need to do that too. And it's
exactly.
not so much that you need to and that you're going to do the exact same thing. Like my contact mapping, got it right that time, isn't going to be identical to yours,
Right.
but it's going to be identical in concept. But
Yes.
the way that I set it up might be very different. It just
Right.
depends on how I feel I need it to work for me. And
Right.
again, that's the
And what
beauty
it
of
is about
Notion.
your friends that you want to remember and how you structure
Right.
that. Right.
Yeah.
That you're right. That's the beauty. It adapts to us. And
Yes.
that makes it so
We're
much
not
more efficient.
right. We're not adapting to it,
Exactly.
which is what we normally do with the other programs. And it's not to slam any of these programs, by the
Right.
way. I mean, there is value in all of them. Don't get me wrong. I've used them. I've liked them. It's just I've outgrown them. Like you said earlier, it's like you kind
Mhm.
of just you outgrew this and went into this, and you outgrew that, and and it's just like, okay, now where do I go? And then you end up with, being in 5 different places and everything's just everywhere. And it's really hard to corral that because you're like, where do I
Mhm.
put this data? Is that in Trello? Is that in Evernote? I mean, I
Mhm.
was constantly doing that. I'm still doing that because I still haven't gotten all my stuff out of those things and
Yes.
into
Yeah.
Notion. So I'm still in the
Yeah.
process of doing that, which is rough. Finding the time to do that. But so right now I'm still kind of jumping around, but my
Mhm.
central hub from December onward is Notion
So, yeah.
only. Nothing
Yeah.
is anywhere else.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's a good point is it's we can adapt it to our needs as opposed to us adapting to the setup of a particular thing like Trello, for
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
Trello is a great app and it works great for a number of things.
Yes.
And like I said, that was my content calendar for quite some time. I outgrew it
You're
for
right.
one, but I also found that I couldn't operate with the view in a way that was helpful to me. And the view that I created for myself in Notion is way more effective
Mhm.
and I'm way more productive. So I've
Yes.
noticed a huge difference in productivity just in that alone. And fortunately, I didn't have to build that. That was in the template that I bought because,
Even better.
yeah, I didn't have to spend any time on that one. It was like plug and play, boom, I'm done, and
Mhm.
it's been beautiful. But I mean, really, it you know the template that I purchased I did make tweaks too, because there
Mhm.
were things in there that really didn't apply to me, or I didn't like the way this was working, so I tweaked it to make it work for me. So there's always that.
Mhm.
And, a lot of people out there are either, giving away templates for free as they demo them, or they're selling them for pretty inexpensively. And a lot of times you get like training videos with them or whatever. And it makes it
Yes.
really nice because you can take that basic concept if you think it's a good shell for you
Mhm.
and either expand on it, remove components, tweak components to make it what you want, but at least you have the shell already in place and it saves a lot of time.
Yes, it definitely saves you time.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the cool thing about the
Mhm.
template. So if you want to get into Notion, like just search on YouTube because there's a lot of people that are talking about it. There's a lot of people that have templates to share. And there's templates within Notion too that again
Yes.
you can use for free, and you can tweak as your heart's content.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the same template more than once for different things.
Yes.
You know, like there's a journal one. Well, you could have like a personal journal, a business journal,
Right.
you know,
Any
whatever. I
number of
mean,
ways to use that
yeah,
journal.
yeah.
A
So,
gardening journal, a
yeah,
crochet journal.
there you
You
go.
can journal
Yeah.
anything. So
Yep, that's what makes it wonderful. And I really, it's really good to see the things that you're doing, because you and I are actually, as much as we are pretty similar in what we do, we're very different in how we operate. And
yes.
so seeing how you do things is very enlightening to me, because some of the things I'm like, ooh, okay, that's cool. I should maybe do that, or I should tweak this to incorporate that, like that media
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I can make
Yes.
a gallery
So you can see
board.
your gallery. Uh-huh.
Yes. And I just need to create the darn thing. But at any rate, yes, I mean, just little things like that. And then there's some things that I just like, it just wouldn't work for me personally.
Right. Right.
You know, that's just
Yeah.
because of the way I operate or work, but it would work for the next person or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of Notion, is the customability. What a word.
We are making up words tonight,
No
aren't we?
kidding. Customability. Sure, why not?
Let's
I
just make
mean,
up all the words. Yeah,
well, you know,
customability.
I am related to Noah Webster, so why not? You
Hey,
know,
there you go.
that's what I always say. If the word doesn't exist, I've got full rights to, you know, make it up. You know, except I'm not a direct descendant, but you know, I am related. You know, very distantly
Hmm.
in two ways, mind you.
Okay.
So does that
Okay.
count for
That
something?
we'll make it double count. Yes.
But yeah, so do you have any final thoughts that you want to share
No,
before
I
we?
definitely encourage people to explore it. Get in touch with us if you have just questions about setting it up. But it's exciting, and I definitely would look forward to having more people with interest in genealogy and family history learning to use and love Notion.
Yeah,
It's such a beneficial tool.
yeah, and I think it'll be something that the genealogy community could really get behind.
Mhm.
And I hope that we see more users in the community,
Yes.
because it'll just strengthen it. I mean, my
Yes.
hub is not perfect. Like I said, I'm going to borrow a few things from Red's template,
Mhm.
just because it was like, oh, I didn't think of that. I was
Mhm.
too busy trying to get everything to talk to one another, because it had to integrate with other components as well. So it was more like that, but I didn't deal with the details that I didn't need to deal with. And so now it's
Yes.
like, oh, that's a great idea. I should do that. I'm going to put in the little people icons and you know, just
Hmm.
little
Yes.
things like that that I just had no
Yes.
worries or concerns about initially. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to doing that. And I know there's a few others um, out there that have some interesting takes on it. So I want to look at what they're doing and
Yeah.
just kind of see um, what else I can do to make my hub better. And
Hmm.
then maybe I can share it with other people and they can
Exactly.
use it.
Hmm.
You know, you're getting it. I already told you that.
I want it. I'm ready.
I know, but I need a guinea pig to
Hey,
test it out.
I'll be
You
your
know, so
tester.
yep, that's exactly what it is. So it's all yours whenever I get it figured
No,
out and dialed in the way I want it,
no.
because I really value your feedback too. And I really would like to see, you know, is there something missing? Is there something that could be enhanced? Is there something that doesn't
Hmm.
make sense? You know, I found
Yeah.
something the other day that I'm like, wait a minute, why did I do this? And I'm gonna have to investigate why I did that, because I really don't remember, because it was like 7 months ago and I really don't
Hmm.
remember. So, you know, little things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to being able to turn that over and turn you loose on it and see what
Oh,
you
I'm
think.
ready. So, but no, thank you for allowing me to share my Notion setup.
Yes.
The first
Thank
time I've
you.
ever done anything like that. So maybe there'll be more opportunities as we evolve with our Notion setup. We can
Yeah,
continue to share. But yeah, thank you for the
absolutely.
opportunity.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on and
Mhm.
share. And just love to see the different perspectives because
Yes.
mine is very different than yours.
Yes.
And it's just nice to see two different genealogists and how they're utilizing it for not just genealogy, but life in general too.
Yeah.
So
Life in general. Our second brains.
exactly, as our second brains, it
Yes.
has definitely become my second brain for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But all right, well, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button for me, and if you'd like to see more, go ahead and subscribe and click the little bell to be notified of new videos as they come out. And check the description for some links and some goodies. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.